Stop Learning Center. IONS, ION. One Stop Learning Center. One Stop Learning Center. IONS, ION.
Okay. 你好 Hello 你们好 Okay. Today we are gonna talk about traditional Chinese characters. Okay, so people must be wondering like why Mandarin has different kind of Mandarin characters. Basically, it's the same. It's just one is the old one that we use for, we call it traditional Mandarin characters. And then later I will show you. And later the China government, they try to make it become a little bit simpler. So they say the character become we call it simplified characters. Okay, so before we start, maybe I want to let you guys see a little video about what is Mandarin characters. Okay, first it's this one. Okay.
Is Chinese difficult to learn? You may often hear people say, I want to learn Chinese, but the Chinese characters are too difficult. Quite a lot of people who want to learn Chinese think this way before taking up Chinese. In fact, you will find it not so hard to learn after you get to know the Chinese characters. Different from alphabetical languages, the Chinese characters have its unique discipline. The Chinese characters originated from pictures or people's depiction of things, or the original hieroglyphical characters. What will you think of when you see this character, Zhi? The character was evolved from the graphical representation of the sun. It is like a circular form with a dot in the middle. You may ask why there is a dot in the middle of the sun. In fact, when people look directly at the sun, the strong light in the middle of the sun is like a light spot. It is clear that ancient people had acute observation. Chinese characters have a history of several thousand years. Humans generated several kinds of hieroglyphical characters, such as the hieroglyphical characters in ancient Egypt, and Indians' Maya characters were lost later due to a host of reasons. Only Chinese characters have gone through several thousand years of evolution and remain until now. These are the earliest Chinese characters we have seen, which were written on tortoise shells and beast bones. There are big and small forms of characters with slender strokes. Every character is like a small kid's drawing. Does this character look like a woman kneeling? It indicates the meaning of a woman. In fact, kneeling down on the two knees and the two hands crossed on the waist is just the bearing of ancient Chinese women. It has evolved into the current form of the character 女. Yue is like a crescent moon. Ren is like a person who is standing with straight arms. Shou is like a palm with 5 fingers and a wrist. Shan is like rolling peaks. After its development, other methods of word formation were developed based on the hieroglyphical characters. Many Chinese characters can be taken apart into different parts. Plus, many Chinese characters share the same parts, which are called components or basic structural parts. The 26 English letters may be formed into words freely. Though Chinese characters have no letters, different structural parts may form different Chinese characters. This structural part conveys the connotation of a hand. When you see characters with this structural part, you may find that these characters are basically related to the motion of hands. Among Chinese characters, there are 1,300 basic structural parts indicating different sounds, and 250 indicating different meanings. These different structural parts may form different characters. According to statistics, over 80% of characters are formed in this way. There has no exact statistics on the total number of Chinese characters. Only approximate figures can be found in dictionaries. 85,000 Chinese characters have been included in Chinese thesaurus published in the 20th century. How to remember so many Chinese characters? Do not worry, though there are numerous Chinese characters, there are only several thousand daily used ones. According to statistics, 1,000 commonly used characters can cover nearly 92% of written documents. 2,000 characters may cover over 98%, 3,000, 99%. Do you know Chinese characters are not only used in China, but also in Japan? No characters were used to record the language for a long period of time in Japanese history. In about the 4th century AD, the Chinese characters were introduced into Japan in large quantities through Korea. At first, the Chinese characters were used as symbols to indicate sound. Later, they gradually became kana. There are Chinese characters found in Korean and Vietnamese. Why not try to write several Chinese characters? You may find the pleasure. 汉字汉字偏旁偏旁
Writing's not that easy.
Okay, and then there's one more here. It's also that it's introduced Chinese characters that you guys should can watch here. Okay. How?
Horse, car, fish, eye, mountain. These glyphs may not seem familiar to you, but you've certainly met their descendants. We've all seen Chinese characters before, whether on the menu of your local Chinese restaurant or on the back of a gym enthusiast that had a spiritual awakening during their last backpacking trip in Asia. We can understand the appeal these logograms have. Chinese writings are beautifully designed and have an air of wisdom to them. But there's more to Chinese characters than aesthetics. They're a reflection of 3,000 years of cultural evolution. But when did these symbols become part of the Chinese language? And how have they evolved over the years? You're watching Explore Mode, and today we're diving into the history of Chinese characters. To the unknowing eye, Chinese characters may seem like a confusing collection of lines and boxes, but they're not just random strokes. Each character carries deep meaning. You just need to know how to interpret them. Think about Chinese characters like Lego blocks. Chinese words are built part by part. Usually, one part represents the meaning, the radical, and the other pronunciation. There are a lot of basic characters that can stand alone, like water, 水, heart, 心, and mouth, 口. Others are built from left to right, like the word for good, 好, which depicts a mother with her child, symbolizing goodness or happiness. Some are built from top to bottom, like the word for grass, 草, which has the radical for grass at the top and the word for early, 早, at the bottom, which gives it its pronunciation. And others are written from the outside in, like the word for stuffy, 闷, which shows a heart within a door, symbolizing a person feeling muggy and trapped behind closed doors. The oldest form of Chinese writing dates back to 1200 BCE, in the late years of the Shang dynasty. These early inscriptions are called oracle bone scripts, 甲骨文. As you might have guessed from the name, oracle bone scripts, known in Chinese as 甲骨文, were used for divination purposes. Inquirers would engrave their questions on an ox scapula or tortoise shells, which were then handed to a diviner. The diviner would heat up the bone until it cracked and interpret an answer depending on where the fissures grew. Questions at the time covered a wide range of topics, from military campaign strategies to hunting expeditions and dream interpretations. These early Chinese pictograms can still be linked to modern Chinese characters. Take this oracle bone question about the weather as an example. The characters can still be easily translated and understood in modern Chinese. The similarities are even more apparent in highly pictographic characters like water, 水, fire, 火, person, 人, and tree or wood, 木. See what we're talking about? Oracle bones almost got crushed to extinction. During the 19th century, farmers dug out a number of oracle bone scripts and confused them with fossils from the Pleistocene that, at the time, were crushed and sold as Chinese medicine to treat malaria and knife wounds. The story goes that in 1899, some oracle bones were sold to Wang Yirong, the chancellor of the Imperial Academy in Beijing, who happened to be a collector of Chinese bronzes, which also bear ancient Chinese scriptures. Upon further inspection of the bones that had been sold to him, he recognized these too had ancient Chinese writings on them. After his death in the year 1900, his collection of oracle bones was passed on to his son, who sold it to a Chinese archaeologist named Liu Yi. Liu would go on to publish rubbings of several oracle bone scripts, bringing the ancient scripture to the attention of international scholars. The rest is history. Chinese scripts found on oracle bones and bronze scripts were already quite advanced and functional for their time, but the characters were often inconsistent. Spanning through the late Zhou dynasty to Qin dynasty, roughly from 221 to 106 BCE, the seal script Chinese form, or 篆书, was developed. It was much more uniform in size and style, while still maintaining a pictographic essence, following elongated strokes and square shapes. These characters were typically carved onto stone or jade to create imperial seals. The first imperial seal was carved onto white jade and was commissioned by the first emperor of a unified China, Qin Shi Huangdi, after he defeated the other warring states. The Qin dynasty lasted just 36 years, but it is one of the most culturally influential dynasties in Chinese history. One of Qin Shi Huang's greatest projects was the construction of the Great Wall of China. Before his reign, there were pieces of the wall built by past emperors in different regions, but it was Qin who connected large stretches of them. Other dynasties after his would follow suit, creating the large fortification system we know of today. Another of Qin's historical legacies is his tomb. In 1974, unsuspecting farmers were digging a well in Shanxi, China, when they unearthed the clay head of what seemed to be an ancient Chinese warrior. Now we know them as the Terracotta Army Warriors, a collection of 8,000 soldiers built specifically to guard Qin's tomb and protect him in his afterlife. But it wasn't just soldiers. Qin's mausoleum contains cavalry horses, acrobats, chariots, and musicians, each of which was unique in their design. These sculptures helped historians and archaeologists study the craftsmanship of this time, as well as military rankings and even the chemical components of the paint used to decorate the sculptures.
Wait. Sorry.
Seal script was very beautiful and it served its ornamental purpose well, but it wasn't very convenient when it came to producing official documents quickly. This is where the first modern version of Chinese characters began to develop, beginning with clerical script. Clerical script, or Li Shu, appeared around 206 BCE to 220 AD. It was a much more simplified version of the seal script, replacing curves and circles with straight lines and squares. Clerical script would later evolve into the regular Chinese script we know today, without much changes other than the simplification of strokes. But the evolution of Chinese characters didn't stop there. Time for an Express Explorer explanation. Start the clock. Nowadays, there are two versions of modern Chinese characters: traditional characters used in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Macau, and simplified characters used in mainland China, Singapore, and Malaysia. The simplification of Chinese characters began in 1956, when, in an effort to raise literacy rates in the country, which was at 20% when the Communist Party took over, Chinese officials began releasing and promoting documents containing simplified versions of Chinese characters. Characters were simplified by decreasing the number of strokes per character. Sometimes this meant removing parts of the character, other times it meant rewriting it into a simpler form. But the simplified versus traditional debate goes beyond education. Many traditional Chinese supporters feel that much of the meaning and artistry behind each character was stripped away during the simplification process. Take the word love, or I, as an example. At the center of the character in traditional Chinese is the character for heart. In the simplified version, the heart is taken away. A more drastic change can be seen in the Chinese word for listen, ting. The traditional version has the character for ear, heart, eyes, and a line separating the heart and eyes to symbolize undivided attention, meaning that to truly listen, one's heart, eyes, and ears have to give undivided attention to whom or what we're listening to. Now, look at the simplified version, which was completely modified from the original. The character on the left is mouth, 口, and the character on the right is jin, a unit of measurement for weight. No connection can be made between the pictogram and the actual meaning of the word. But Chinese officials weren't just looking to simplify characters. They wanted to create a romanized version of their pronunciations that would help globalize the language. So Mao Zedong tasked Zhou Youguang, an economist turned linguist, with this mission, an offer he could not refuse, literally. Chinese characters were almost completely eliminated by Mao Zedong in mainland China, until an unlikely historical figure advised him against it. Before Mao rolled out the complete reformation of traditional characters, he was contemplating completely romanizing the Chinese language. That is, according to Zhou, until he met with Joseph Stalin in 1949. Mao shared his Chinese writing reform plans with him and asked Stalin for his advice. According to a memoir by Mao's personal secretary, Stalin told Mao, quote, "You're a great country, and you should have your own Chinese alphabet. You shouldn't simply use the Latin alphabet." It took Zhou and a team of linguists 3 years to develop the pronunciation guide we now know as Hanyu Pinyin, based on the Zhuyin Fuhao, the original Chinese phonetic guide. Zhou's guide has now become the most widely used Chinese romanization system in China and around the world, successfully facilitating the dissemination of Mandarin Chinese. Nowadays, 1.117 billion people in the world speak Mandarin Chinese, and with China expanding as an economic powerhouse, there's no doubt that number will increase. Are you up for the challenge? Thanks for watching Explore Mode. If you liked this video, hit the thumbs up button.
Okay. Okay. So far, do you have any question from the video? No? Okay. I will share you can always ask me the question anytime. No problem. Okay. I will share the PowerPoint here. Okay. So yeah, let me explain. What is traditional Chinese characters? That I believe that if you already watched the video earlier, okay. So it's like one type of standard Chinese character that has like, more complex writing system, okay. And then that is usually already used from 1,000 years ago until now. We are still keep always the same way and then the same characters. So whatever that we are learning now, that we can always understand whatever that is the book in 1,000 years ago, we can still understand. Okay, so traditional Chinese character is more, for me, it's more, like more to like a picture. It's easier to understand. They always has different meaning and then, match together. It seems more, how to say, seems easier to understand for me, because sometimes you can see from the video, sometimes when it simplifies, it's just too simple. until that you can actually really understand what is that mean, or why the words is come from, like what picture or whatever that mean from. So I think traditional Chinese is actually more stroke, but actually I think it's easier to understand and remember. Okay, so here is like where to use traditional Chinese character now. Of course, right now mainly we use is in Taiwan and Hong Kong and Macau. And sometimes it depends. Sometimes also in the different area of Southeast Asia, they also use traditional Chinese. Depends on the area and the people where they're from. But mainly it's Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Macau that we are still using traditional Chinese characters. Okay. And for the simplified Chinese, like the video say earlier, the Republic of China on the mainland China here between 1949 and 1964, they tried, because they find out that, you know, a lot of the people that in China, they couldn't read traditional Chinese. So they try to make it become easier for them to learn. So they come out with their new, the other easier, like they call it simplified character for that the people that in China that will be easier for them to learn. So that's why they come out with the simplified characters. It's actually not really a big difference between traditional Chinese and simplified. A lot of characters, they still keep the same. Only some words that they think that is too many stroke there, then they try to make it a little bit simpler. Okay. But basically, like if you ask me to read simplified character, I can understand, you know. And then for the people that from China, that they can also be able to read the traditional Chinese character, because it's not a really big difference. Okay. And as we know that the simplified Chinese, that the difference with traditional Chinese, the difference is one, for simplified Chinese is fewer strokes I need to write as a character. And then a fewer character in common use. That means that two different, like if for traditional character, actually there's two different characters, but now they make it become the same words, like that. Not all, but some of the character they will make it like that. Like, you know, like if in traditional Chinese we are using two different words, but now sometimes they just combine, become writing in the same characters. Okay, so you can see from here, okay, if you can see here, if traditional Chinese, this is called I. It means love here. Okay, so like in the video say, there has a heart original, you know, if you love someone, you need to have a heart in it, right? But if they simplify, they delete the heart in it. So yeah, only have a friend, become a friend here. So it's sometimes it's really I don't know how to say, like sometimes it doesn't really make sense, like, you know, why they are delete the heart. If you without have a heart, how can you love someone, right? So, you know, it's sometimes it's just the people, sometimes they say will be easier to understand or easier to remember the character, actually is traditional characters. Okay, and then if you can see Ma here, okay, and then they just try to make it simplified like this. And noodles, this is we call mian. Okay, mian, if in this part, this one is actually means wheat. So usually noodle is made by wheat, right? But they just delete the wheat and then they just only keep this mian in here. So probably, yeah, for some students, they think it will be easier to remember simplified. But it's really depends on the people. Some people think traditional Chinese is easier to understand, easier to remember because they have a more complete meaning in it. Simplified, some students think that, it's easier to write, less stroke to write. So yeah, okay, it depends on whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, so traditional Chinese character, okay, simplified character, okay, both of character all are using in the world around. Okay, if you like traditional character, yeah, you can come to study in Taiwan. If you prefer simplified Chinese character, then you can go to China to study in China. They are all using simplified. Okay, here I just want to explain that, okay, how these Chinese characters that, for a lot of students, they will be like, oh, the Chinese character looks so hard, I couldn't understand what even, how it start, how it write. Okay, basically Chinese character is not that hard. Usually you can see from here, we call it stroke here. Basically, we are only combined with all different stroke here, we combine, become a word. So it's not suddenly you are like drawing, like you are making like this, or you are making a circle, you are going up and down like that. Not like that. We all has the steps there. Okay, so first you can see here the first stroke here. We call it dian. Dian is just, from the left to right. It's kind of like a little dot. You're just going down like this. We call dian. So you can see from the few character here, for example, this ni, they also has, one like this stroke in here combined together. Okay, and then next one, this one, heng. Heng is from the left to right. Okay, you just go in like this, flat, heng. Okay, almost all the words we have this stroke here, heng. And then shu. Shu is from top to down. So this is called shu. Okay, shu going down like this. Shu. Okay. So for example, if you want to write number 10, for example, 10, 10, you just need to write, first one you write hen like this step, and then you go right on the top to the bottom, shu. So then this means 10, number 10, right? So it's just all the characters all must from here, from all this stroke, and then combine together. Okay, so this one, pie is from right to the left, and you're just going kind of like milling like this, pie. Okay, and then na is the other way around. You're going left to right, we go na. Okay, and t is from the back, from the bawah ke naik ke atas. So you go t, this is called t. Okay, t going up like this, t. And we also have this called heng go. So we go heng and then go. Okay, and then this is shu go, or same thing here, go, and then also heng zhe or shu zhe. Okay, so it's just all, you just have to know all these basic stroke here, then you already can write Mandarin character, because all the characters are based on here. Okay, let's see from here. For example, let's see this character. This character means ni, it means you. Okay, so the first stroke here, you can find is using this, right? Pie, right? And then the second stroke, you can find this one, shu, right? And then this third stroke here, again, same, pie. And then the fourth stroke you can find here, heng go. So you go here, heng, and then there's hook here, heng go. Okay, and then you have right in the middle here. There's a shu go here. So you're going down, and then you hook, shu go. okay? And then you have Dian this side, and then Dian this side, okay? So this is Na and then Dian. So it's already like this, then you already can combine words. So all the characters are like this, okay? So Mandarin character is not that hard. It's just all combined with all these stroke and become a words. And then if you understand the meaning, you know, you understand the sound, and then lama it's just mix and match and become a words. So it's a fun way, and it's a fun language to learn, I think. Okay, it's like you are drawing a picture, and then it's not just like English or Indonesian, like it depends on the sound, the sound, but it's more to the meaning. Okay, for example, this one, Chinese character here. So you can see earlier, so this is means matahari, right? So you can see from the picture here, and before a long time ago, it was like this, and then lama, now we are using it like this. Okay, so you can see, oh, I know, even though maybe you don't know how to read this, but at least you understand. This is means sun. Okay, it means sun. We call it 日, sun. Okay, and then you can see here eyes. See the eyes, the original picture like this, right? And then long time ago they write like this, and then you know lama, now they try to make it become standing, but still eyes here. So this is mu. Okay, mu it means eyes here. And this one, right, it's a tree here, right? Looks like a tree here. And then we take the bottom part, become wood. We call it wood. This means wood. We say mu also, okay? And then it means, so see, we have same sound. Ooh, this is also mu. This is also mu. But the character to make it different meaning. So that's why character is very important for Mandarin. So when you see it, you know, oh, you mean tree. And then you see, oh, you mean this is ice. Gitu. Okay. So, and then shan also, you can see the mountain here. And then now this is how we write san. Okay. Shan, which means mountain. And horse here, you can see, like, you know, when there's standing horse. And now this is the way we write horse, like this. Horse, okay. And then knife also, okay, this is knife. You can see there's a knife here, knife. So this is called dao. Okay. And fish, you see the fish, standing fish here, yu. So it looks like a fish, right? Yu, like this. Fish, yu, okay, like a fish standing. Okay, and then the door, I think you can easy to understand, right? This is door, like two doors. You push in, okay? Door, man. So this is door, two door, like an old traditional door. Usually it's two door, and then you know push in. So this is door, man. So yeah, like you know, you already can read Mandarin. You know, this is sun, this is eye, this is wu, this is mountain, this is horse, this is knife, fish, and door, right? So Mandarin is not hard. It's like, you know, if you understand, you know, that's from the picture, then you automatically know, oh, I know what they mean, right? So this is the character, basic from the pictures. Okay. Now we can also see a little YouTube about, you know, how these words come from. Okay, wait.
Growing up in Taiwan as a daughter of calligrapher, one of my most treasured memories was my mother showing me the beauty the shape and the form of Chinese characters. Ever since then, I was fascinated by this incredible language. But to an outsider, it seems to be as impenetrable as the Great Wall of China. Over the past few years, I've been wondering if I can break down this wall so anyone who wants to understand and appreciate the beauty of this sophisticated language to do so. I started thinking about how a new, fast method of learning Chinese might be useful. Since the age of 5, I started to learn how to draw every single stroke for each character at correct sequence. I learn new characters every day during the course of the next 15 years. Since we only have 5 minutes, it's better that we have a fast and simpler way. A Chinese scholar would understand 20,000 characters. You only need 1,000 to understand the basic literacy. The top 200 will allow you to comprehend 40% of basic literature, enough to read road sign, restaurant menu, to understand the basic idea of the web pages or the newspapers. Today I'm going to start with 8 to show you how the method works. You ready? Open your mouth as wide as possible until it's square. You get a mouse. This is a person going for a walk. Person. If the shape of the fire is a person with 2 arms on both sides, as if she was yelling frantically, "Help, I'm on fire." The symbol actually is originally from the shape of the flame, but I like to think that way, whichever works for you. This is a tree. Tree. This is a mountain. The sun. The moon. The symbol of the door looks like a pair of saloon doors in the Wild West. I call these 8 characters radicals. They are the building blocks for you to create lots more characters. A person, if someone walks behind, then it's to follow. As old saying goes, 2 is company, 3 is a crowd. If a person stretches the arms wide, this person is saying, it was this big. The person inside the mouth, the person is trapped. He's a prisoner, just like Jonah inside the whale. 1 tree is a tree, 2 trees together, we have the woods. 3 trees together, we create the forest. Put a plank underneath the tree, we have the foundation. Put a mouse on the top of the tree, that's idiot. Easy to remember. Since a talking tree, it's pretty idiotic. Remember fire? 2 fires together, I get really hot. 3 fires together, that's a lot of flames. Set the fire underneath the 2 trees, it's burning. For us, the sun is the source of prosperity. 2 suns together, prosperous. 3 together, that's a lot of sparkles. Put the sun and the moon shining together, it's brightness. It also means tomorrow, after a day and a night. The sun is coming up above the horizon, sunrise. A door, put a plank inside the door, we have this door bolt. Put a mouse inside the door, asking questions. Knock, knock, is anyone home? This person is sneaking out of the door, escaping, evading. On the left, we have a woman. 2 women together, they have an argument. 3 women together, be careful, it's adultery. So we have gone through almost 30 characters. By using this method, the first 8 radicals will allow you to build 32. The next group of 8 characters will build an extra 32. So within very little effort, you will be able to learn a couple hundred characters, which is the same as a Chinese 8-year-old. So after we know the characters, we start building phrases. For example, the mountain and the fire together, we have fire mountain. It's a volcano. We know Japan is land of rising sun. This is the sun. putting with the origin because Japan lies in the east of China. So, a sun, origin together, we built Japan. A person behind Japan, what have we got? Japanese person. The character on the left is two mountains stacked on the top of each other. In ancient China, that means in exile, because Chinese emperor, they put their political enemies in exile beyond mountains. Nowadays, exile has turned into getting out. A mouth which tells you where to get out is an exit. This is a slide to remind me that I should stop talking and get out of the stage. Thank you.
Okay. So far, do you have any questions about Chinese traditional Chinese characters? Do you have any questions? No? Okay. So hopefully you kind of already understand what it's traditional Chinese is, and if you want to know more about Chinese or more about learning Mandarin or anything, you can always come to IONS or check on our website to more information about Mandarin. Okay, so 谢谢，再见。
Learning Center.